So we have not gone over some of what happened in the transfer portal and or those who declared to enter the NFL draft. Now, coming up on Wednesday night, it's the Earl Campbell Tyler Rose Award. And one of the finalists this year is Texas running back Jonathan Brooks, and I was told that he's declared to enter the NFL draft.
Yes.
He announced that maybe a few days ago. I think it's official now. But the one today, Adonai Mitchell, the wide receiver at Texas, who was involved in that last play against Washington, I think most people probably realized he's ready, but there may have been that romanticism or whatever you want to say about him coming back. He now, A.D. Mitchell, has entered the draft from Texas, too.
Well, I believe this exists with college football fans, but particularly Texas fans. I remember even going back to Vince Young when he declared early. Like, well, nobody declares early. I'm like, Vince Young declaring early.
Yeah.
Like, there's...
You talk about at the top of your game.
To be fair, though, like, they had a run there where guys always came back. Like, it did not matter. They always came back to school for their fourth year. And Vince was actually the one that I recall. He broke that. Yeah, that string that Mac Brown had, and then it's been that way ever since.
But now also, like, I think there's still that fans that were still haven't like done the math on it yet. But now, everybody's doing it. Like, it's not all that uncommon for people to leave early, especially now with the way that if you're a top 100 pick in the NFL draft, your contract for the first 4 years of your life is really good. I mean, that's like even a third-round pick. Your guaranteed money, the league minimum, is really, really good. And, the way that coaches develop now, it's a lot different, so it makes a lot of sense. But, yeah, Texas was going to get rated by the NFL. That's great news for Texas and bad news for Texas on the same time.
Well, the good news is they have a lot of guys who are going to fill those roles and also have had some really nice back-to-back signing classes, too, and they'll get who they need in the portal as if they already have not gotten those anyway.
I mean, they will, but, I mean, let's also be real. I think this is why I talked the other day about how you're very excited about the future if you're Texas, but you also saw a very nice window that was there for you about a week ago that closed and smashed and the glass broke, because you're going to realize like how talented this team was and that, man, they should have been playing for a national championship. And the fact that they didn't even get to the championship game, I think you do have to view as some level of disappointment, and you can't be guaranteed that this is going to go this way moving forward, no matter the talent, because how many close calls do they also have? So
and a couple, three.
Yeah, they had
Houston,
they had a couple close calls there. This wasn't just
Kansas
skating
State
through the schedule without any blips on the horizon. But I think that this is a significant loss. It's not one that they can't replace. Adonai Mitchell, but it is a guy who was by far their biggest big play wide receiver. If you needed a big catch in a big moment, that was the guy you went to. And look no further than the other night when the season riding on the line, who did they go to? They went to A.D. Mitchell. So he led them in touchdowns this past season. He led them in yards per catch. And there would be times where you didn't really see too much of him. And then you get late in the game and they needed a big first down and they needed to score. Guess who suddenly showed up? Mitchell, and there he was in the end zone, most likely of all places, to catch the football and give them a big moment. And so, I think he's a big-time wide receiver and a big moment wide receiver, a game on the line wide receiver. And, he and Worthy were just a terrific pair for them this past season. So to be losing both of those guys, I do think, you like Jonte Cooks and you like various other recruits that you brought in. And you're going to bring in some guys like from Houston, Matthew Golden, and you're going to have guys like that to step up and replace these other players. But no doubt about it that this is a loss, and he's a really great player that you're going to be happy that you saw in Burnt Orange, but you wish it would last a little bit longer. So, not surprised by that announcement, but that's Jonathan Brooks that's now out the door. That's Xavier Worthy that's now out the door. That's
Jalen Ford
out the door. Byron Murphy out the door.
Ryan Watts. You already mentioned.
I was going to get to him because we haven't said that just yet. But there are other D linemen. Devondre Sweat out the door. So, that's a handful of big-time playmakers for them that has all declared for the draft. And might as well go ahead and mention the one that you just did, Ryan Watts, cornerback, also declaring for the draft and heading to the NFL. So, it's one of their bigger, better players in the secondary, dealt with injuries, often. But that was a unit when it came to the game the other night of where is Texas's weakness, and they're really trying to bulk up and build up that secondary, but he was one of their bright spots at times, and so not irreplaceable, but I do think, that's certainly a loss as well. So, Ryan Watts and A.D. Mitchell both added to that mix of players along with Jalen Ford. So, it's been a busy bunch of declarations. You did get Jake Majors announcing that he was going to come back.
Yeah, the center.
Your center for next season. But and I guess Quinn Ewers has yet to officially announce anything, but most of the guys, and I guess Jatavian Sanders, we need to hear from him.
He's declared.
He's gone.
Did he
He's
declare?
declared, yeah.
Okay, well, that's not surprising. Maybe I just am forgetting that. So, he's gone. That's not a surprise whatsoever. So, I guess really Ewers is maybe just about the only guy at this point that you're wondering about.
Unless you've got another offensive lineman or two, I would think that are gonna maybe
I tell you
leave
what,
or come back. But
Majors and a couple of linemen, they were jittery in that game. I know it's been a week since that game, but that kind of started out a little bit with some of the offensive line false starts and movement or whatever. But Majors coming back is a big deal because they have such a good, thick, strong, deep offensive line. And that's where it all starts. I don't care what you do on an offense, who you are, or what your mentality is offensively.
Yeah, that's been one of the major reasons for their little turnaround is beefing up and getting better along that offensive line. They invested there, as we'll all remember, starting a couple of years back with NIL and recruited really well there. So, to get Jake Majors back is good, but everybody else pretty much other than Ewers has all declared to go to the NFL. So you can say what you want to about the NIL and transfer portal and recruiting and all that. I just don't think you just all of that impact. I don't think you just bring in freshmen and a guy from Bowling Green and whatever else, and you just go like, oh yeah, we'll be right back where we are. But an expanded playoff, who the heck knows? There was also, we must mention the changeover there, or the hire of Arizona defensive coordinator Johnny Nansen as their co-DC and linebackers coach after a terrific year that Arizona had. I know there was some reporting on that from our good buddy Jason Shear, who was all over that these last few days. So, that seems like to be a pretty big hire for them on the defensive side of the football, as well as Jeff Choate goes to go coach or become the new head coach at Nevada. So I think that's worth mentioning, and that's a loss for Arizona, who now makes their way into the Big 12, coming off a pretty hot year. So that's notable.
So what is more, the transfer portal is number one, the most active. I know Florida State had a pretty good weekend, Paul. I know Matt Rule in Nebraska had a couple of guys added. Baylor added Ashton Hawkins, the wide receiver. Texas State had right before the weekend ended, as you guys were wrapping up the show, the Montana State All-American offensive lineman. But my goodness, I honestly, it is hard for me to keep up with because it's never ending.
Well, and it's just there's so many because, like if you're trying to follow NBA free agency, there's not hold on, I'll tell you. There's not 2,065 NBA free agents. That's how many people are there, and 818 of them have committed. There's not even 818. I mean, so it's hard to.
And there's a timeline.
Yeah, there's all this that goes on, but I think Nebraska, like you mentioned, Nebraska had a really interesting weekend. Isaiah Nayor, they picked up Dowdle, the running back from Oregon. Now, we're in the phase, outside of you getting Evan Stewart or Quinshon Judkins, who are, obviously, highly sought after people in the portal. We're in this guy was a 4-star a year or two ago. He wasn't a fit. Let's see how it works out. Isaiah Nayor was tremendous at Wyoming, dealt with injuries when he came to Texas and was not part of their main receiver rotation really. So let's see if they can squeeze something out of him because skill positions in Nebraska, we're probably their, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, the weakest spots on the entire team. And they've addressed that in a lot of different ways this offseason. But yeah, that's where we are is, okay, you didn't work out here. You've got this skill set. Let's see if you can do better at our spot and we can coach you differently because, again, outside of Quinshon Judkins, I don't think anybody, and maybe, Tailua Tagovailoa, if he gets his 6th year, are going to, set the world on fire.
I don't know. Based on everything that I've read, all 2,000 guys or however many have moved are all huge additions to their respective team that they've just joined. Every single one of them.
Yeah.
Massive pickups, a.k.a. huge additions. I just find that funny that's how it's always sort of reported as every single guy is a huge addition to wherever they've now landed, no matter what they did or did not do previously. But I get that, and yeah, it's a lot to sort through. I just saw Kendrick Blackshear from Alabama, big-time linebacker,
Is he from Dallas, Fort Worth?
Duncanville.
Yeah.
Big time linebacker recruit, just a year or two ago?
I believe it was last year.
Yeah, so he's already in the portal. So that's another guy who's just jumped in there today. And I know that there's probably others today that have jumped in there as well. I don't know how notable they'd be on our radar, but Kendrick Blackshear certainly is, because I remember how big of a high school recruit he was. And he had Texas all over him, I think A&M. And, I mean, obviously ended up at Alabama. So he's now back in the pool and can get re-recruited. So that'll be interesting to see there. But it's a lot to keep track of, and it's a lot of names to learn, and it's a lot of fits to learn, and you have the coaching changeover on top of that, and it's a lot to sort through. So good thing we have an off season to kind of clear up, and eventually the dust will settle, and you can go, okay, this is the roster, and these are the guys on the roster.
But will it ever settle?
I mean, it does every year. I mean, let's not. I get what you're saying, but it is what it is, and it's been this way now for a few years. So it's not going to settle right now. They'll have the post spring ball exoduses, and then that will shift again. And then guess what? You'll have your roster put together in the summer, and those teams then go play their football season. So yeah, it'll settle. But this whole this is what it is, and this is what it's going to be, and it's not going to be ever again a situation where they play the national title and then we go dark for a month and a half until signing day number 2 in February, or we have the little build up for that, and then we go dark for a couple of weeks, and then it's spring ball, and then we go dark. I mean, it's year round now, and that's not by design the way the NFL designed it to be that way. It's the result of all of these different rules changes, but it has led to a year round following of the sport, for better or worse.
Free agency 24/7. Sergeant Pickles.